Good morning, my beautiful divine feminines, and welcome to the next episode of Divine Feminine Talks. Today we're going to be talking about the journey of the feminine and the journey of the masculine. I'm going to be comparing the journey of the feminine and the masculine to you with the objective for you to understand what's going on, what is the masculine going through wherever you're going through certain things, and to also for you to understand that there are certain illusions on this journey, right? And we have to be mindful on that. And one of those illusions is that the masculine is behind. He is never behind. It is an illusion. He is just going through things differently and in an unaware way. But he is always, just like we are for them, our greatest teacher. So this is what we're going to be talking about. I have my notes here. Today, I actually have a visual aid, a visual board. I am a visual kind of person. So my process for these talks and any kind of videos that I do, I clear my vessel, I connect to spirit, and I ask to use me as a channel, and I start writing down and taking notes, right? Obviously, right now, as I speak, I channel as well, but just to make sure that I'm not going to forget about anything. And when I was taking these notes yesterday, this board, it's just like it showed itself to me. So I'm going to walk through this, and then at the end I'm going to show you so you can take a look, and maybe if you are a visual person, it will help you as well. Hold on, it almost got burned by my candle, so let's be careful. Okay, so let's give it a start. Let's give it a go. Comparing the journey of the feminine with the journey of the masculine, the awakening of the feminine with the awakening of the masculine. So the first step of the journey is the activation. Two twin flames meet. And this is where we are more or less, okay, on the same page. We both feel the connection. We go to that second, not stage, but mindset of recognition, right? So we both feel that one of these things is not like the others. We both feel the recognition of the soul, that sensation of, I know you from somewhere. I'm being pulled towards you. You are not like anyone else, right? And this is that moment when we are together in this journey. We're feeling the same. This is that, if we compare these moments to the stages, and I've done a separate video about the stages of the journey. When it comes to stages, we go through these stages together, right? In the same way. This is the stage of activation and the bubble phase, right? The love bubble phase. And we are on the same page in this stage, and it can last, I've mentioned this in my other video, it can last anywhere from hours to sometimes days, maybe a few weeks, maximum of like a month or two or few, but it's going to be a very short period of time depending on your individual journey and your individual an individual pairing. And from there we go into a stage of in and out and then separation. And what is happening during that stage for the feminine and for the masculine is very different. So let's start from what's going on with the feminine, what's going on with us. We go almost immediately into the stage of awakening. It is our masculine who awakens us, who awakens our kundalini, who awakens us to the truth, right? So you're going to be going through sensations on a level of your physical body and on a level of emotion. You're going to be feeling extremely different to anything that you felt before. You're going to be feeling that magnetic frequency in your body being activated as your kundalini awakens. If you've been through it, you know that it can be a very painful process. It's like you momentarily release the armor of the body, and you suddenly feel all the emotions of yourself, of other people, emotions that you haven't felt before, emotions on a level that you haven't felt before. So it's a very difficult process, and again, we go into that process almost immediately. However, what I want to mention, that the Kundalini awakening is something that it's going to be different for every feminine, and it's a process. It's not something that happens in one go, right? For some, it's going to be shorter process. For some, it's going to be lengthier process. It's the moment, the most intense moment is when the serpent awakens. It's like the serpent opens the eyes and starts to like wiggle within you. And then the journey of the serpent through your energetical point and connecting you to the divine can be a longer process, right? And from there we embark on our journey of healing, right? So we are being pushed by our ultimate mirror, by our masculine, and by spirit as well, to embark on a journey of deep healing. So we start to strip the layers of our shadows, of our traumas. We heal on a level of the soul. We don't only just heal. We can start, sometimes it happens simultaneously, but we don't only just heal on a level of the soul this lifetime, but we heal previous lifetimes. We are those that break generational traumas, lineage trauma, lineage of your body, lineage of your blood. So you start to deep heal. This is the process that is very intense. You're going to be going through multiple dark nights of the soul during that process. You're going to be going through ego release. Again, it's not going to be one time, one moment, but lesson through lesson through lesson, layer through layer through layer, you're going to be releasing the ego. I myself don't like to call it ego death, because ego doesn't die. It cannot die. Ego is our physical existence. So until we live, we have this vessel and we have to have it, right? It's this is why we come here as soul. We come here to experience this human life, go through this human experience. So we want to have the body, but we want to use the body for the good. We want to use the body for everything that we don't have when we are stardust, everything that we cannot experience. So pleasure, sense, smells, the passage of time, the lineage, the linearity of time, right? The aging, the experiencing, the learning, all these things that a lot of us who live guided by the ego, ruled by the ego, actually refuse to experience, right? Because the biggest problem of that, side note, the biggest problem of the ego and the soul, the biggest reason that we're in conflict is that ego understands that it's not permanent. It's going to die, it's going to disappear, and it's fearful. So it's making you believe that it's all that you have, and it's creating that energy of fear, right? So what actually happens is that you don't go through ego deaths, you go through ego release. You're releasing the ego. You're allowing the ego to feel safe and comfortable and understand that your soul will forever carry that unique frequency of that ego, this body, this lifetime with them. And this is how it will persevere. And it releases the reins, and the soul starts to hold them to actually experience life from the level of the soul, from the level of love, right? So this is what happens. And as we go through this process, we go through Kundalini awakening, we embark on a journey of healing. We also go through activations, right? And to most feminines, that activation will start almost immediately. So you're going to start to see things outside of physical realm, see things, hear things, experience things, right? And as you progress on your journey, more and more activations will happen, right? Whatever gifts you were meant to activate within you that are relevant for your specific journey, for your specific path, gifts and activations that link you to your purpose. I've done a whole separate video about the purpose, so you can go and check that out. And during that phase of awakening, right, we work on a soul level. We work on a soul level. This is that part of the journey that is very difficult, that is very painful, that is very uncomfortable, that is very scary, that happens in a place of deep isolation because you don't know what's going on with you, with your body, with your life, with your existence. Everything that you knew stops to exist the way you knew it, right? So you have to reinvent everything. The illusions of the matrix fall, right? You receive downloads, you receive information directly from spirit in the beginning, relevant to you, to your journey, to your truths. What is it that you need to know, right? So on a level of a soul, this is the hardest part of our life. We never knew that pain existed on a level of depths that we go through this pain, right? It's almost unbearable. Many times during this period, that awakening, we go through moments when we feel like we don't want to do this anymore. We want to go back home. We want to end this physical existence, right? It's too hard. It's too difficult. It's extremely painful. It's very painful. And the curious thing about this is that, and there's actually a reason for that, is that we externally go through an incredible glow up, right? So internally, on the level of a soul, we suffer every day. We cry ourselves to sleep. We go through emotions that we, again, the depths of these emotions that we didn't know that they existed. But to an external outside observer, it looks like we suddenly look more beautiful. We glow more. We thrive in life. And this is where I often mention to you guys that we are being protected by spirit, right? So we usually don't go through any physical challenges or towers. Maybe we have some karma and situations that we need to clear out, but we're usually protected. We're usually abundant. No major tower changes, painful moments happen in our physical life to give us space to be able to go through this deep pain, to be able to go through this awakening, right? And the reason we have to go through this is as well, remember, the feminine will work on a level of a soul, right? So whatever path we will have that will be relevant to you, again, I've done a separate video about the path of the feminine. It can be becoming a reader, a shaman, a shadow worker, a psychic medium, but it can also be just having a job that feels like 3D, being a teacher, being a doctor, being an artist, being an activist, right? But it will always be your mission, and you will always operate from a level of a soul, and you will always speak to people's soul. So you have to know what it feels like. Every emotion, every struggle, you have to understand what it feels like. This is why you go through all these things, right? And when that thing is happening, which I cannot even give you a raw estimate for how long it's gonna last, because it's very individual to every feminine. It's gonna depend on how dedicated you are to this journey, the strength of your soul. I don't want to say like your soul, but you know what I mean, the dedication to this journey, and also things that you have to process, because some of us have more pain and trauma to process than the others. And I also mentioned this to you guys in my video about the path of the feminine, that those of us who will really work with people's souls and with people's vulnerability. So those of us who will link ourselves to being a spiritual teacher, be it again a reader, a shaman, a psychic medium, sometimes this phase is extended to us because we really need to understand, we really deeply need to connect to that soul, right? So as we go through that period of, again, awakening, kundalini awakening, healing, activations, dark night of the soul, ego release, pain, and externally glow up. Now let's find out what's happening in the life of the masculine, because it's completely different. As we go through these things, our masculine remains in a place of denial. After that bubble phase, right? After that activation and bubble phase, again, that can last anywhere from minutes, hours to maybe weeks, right? A few months top. The masculine goes under the veil of avoidance, under the veil of denial. There's variety of reasons it happens. One of the most important ones that I want you to remember and understand is that we are one soul, right? So we agree, this is the karmic contract between us, that we're going to help each other unknowingly, but the soul knows, the blueprint of your soul is there. It remembers that we're going to help each other, sometimes unknowingly, to go through the stages of this journey, right? So whatever is happening to you, whatever has to happen in that level, the masculine have to be in denial and avoidance to facilitate, to trigger you into that deep healing, through rejecting you, through denying your connection, right? He has to do that. Also because the one of the key and core parts of being the feminine is a complete surrender and complete trust. So there has to be no logical confirmation of what we know that is true in the 3D, right? But also because we are one soul, one chakra system, one consciousness, which means that it would be extremely difficult to embark on such a deep healing simultaneously. We have to hold space for each other. So we go first because we lead the way. We lead the way in the spiritual realm. And this journey is very strongly linked to the 5D, to the spiritual realm. It's the journey of the soul. So we lead the way on this journey, right? And also through avoidance, through denial, through rejection, the masculine reminds us, teaches us, without them knowing, that we have to stay in the spiritual realm, that the physical dominion, the 3D dominion is not our dominion, right? And I've talked about this in previous episodes as well. So he's in denial, he's in avoidance. He has no idea. He has no idea that this is a journey of the soul. Like I said, he's going to feel the remembrance of the soul, the recognition of the soul. He will know that you are different than other women. You will cause different emotions on a physical level, emotional level of the soul within him, but he will completely deny the connection. So whilst you are being shown what it is to inflame spirituality, awakening, past lifetimes, yada, 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 he remains completely in the matrix. His life goes on. And as you go through Kundalini awakening, activations, deep healing, again, dark nights of the soul, so on and so forth, he in the same time goes through 3D towers and karmic lessons, karmic contract, karmic people, karmic patterns. So he really... that's this comparison that I was seeing, and I have it written down on one line. As you externally, physically go through a glow up, right? For him, it's a downfall. So for both of you, this will be the most painful, hardest, difficult period of your life. But for you, it's going to be on a 5D level. So no one will see that. No one will know that. Suffer in silence, right? Whereas for the masculine, it's his 3D world that will crumble. So he may be going through issues with money, issues with job loss, apartment changes, He may be going through difficulties with people around him, sometimes even physical issues, diseases. He goes through all the gunk of the matrix. Sometimes it's addictions, sometimes it's workaholism, sometimes it's very shallow, random, intimate connections, one night stands, so on and so forth, shallowness of the matrix, pain of the matrix. Why? Because similarly to us, we have to learn everything on the level of a soul. Pain of the soul, struggle of the soul, remembrance of the soul, because we will be the leaders of that in future. We will help people to heal on the level of the soul. Whereas the masculine, he has to go through all the nonsense, downfall, lies, deceptions, shallowness, pain, addictions of the matrix, because he will be the one to break it. This is his job. So I always say this to you guys, in order to really work with certain frequency, you need to know this frequency from its bottom to its highest, from its lowest to its highest, right? So he has to, like we have to get to know human soul, he has to get to know the matrix, because one day he will be the breaker of the matrix. He will be the breaker of the paradigm, right? So he goes through all that, and sometimes it is extremely difficult, because I always talk about this, that they usually observe us, because there's always this curiosity, there's always this pull. So even though externally they deny it, they run away from us, they escape from us, they avoid us, again, part of our karma, part of our karmic contract, internally something is calling them in, something is calling them home. The feminine is the home of the masculine. It's not the place, it's not this the mindset, it's us. We are their home, right? So we're calling them in to their mission. We are their connection to the void. We are their connection, their direct connection to God, right? So something is calling them in. The soul is calling them in. So they watch us, they follow us on social media, and the tricky part here is that oftentimes, because they don't see what's happening internally, they don't see our pain, they don't see our suffering, right? We're also hiding it because it's part of our shadow as well, that we put on a mask and we play cool, right? But they observe that our life seems to be perfect. So we often, like I said, in a physical 3D life, we often thrive. So we start to look better. We start to sometimes travel, go to places. We find ourselves, and we find self-expression through art, through style. We start to share these things online as well. So to an outside observer, it looks like we're thriving. And in 3D life, oftentimes we are thriving, right? Because we have to have the space to focus on the 5D, on the suffering of the soul. So it triggers him even more, that he goes through this darkness, through what seems to be hell. Nothing is going right, nothing that he wants. He's pushing, he's insisting, it's not going well. He's hustling, he cannot make the money. He's trying at his job, he cannot get it right. He cannot get it right with people, with friends, again, sometimes with health. Sometimes it is just like for us, the soul healing is seen externally. Soul healing is always seen externally, but because they're still in the matrix, sometimes you can see in their appearance that they look tired, they look worse, they look older. It's sometimes, one of the side note, maybe you've noticed this, that we always have societal issue, and oftentimes it happens that the feminine is older than the masculine, because this is quite of a big societal issue in our twisted society, right? For women to be 10 or plus years older than men, but sometimes we look younger than them, right? Because the exhaustion, the lies, the manipulations, the low vibration of energy of the matrix literally is seen through them, through their bodies, right? So they look at us and they're triggered. The jealousy is triggered, the comparison is triggered. Again, what they have to release is triggered. And it's very important. It's an extremely difficult part of the journey of the masculine. And it's important, you know, to remember that it is a little bit, for both of us, but to them especially, it is a little bit that they have to be broken. Because the masculine energy, you have to remember, we operate more on a spiritual level and levels of spiritual chakras. This is what is more prone to low vibration sort of attack, right, for us as feminists. Masculines, they're more vulnerable on the level of the physical chakras because they work on the level of the matrix and the 3D, right? So shame, guilt, worthiness, and the ego, they really have to be broken, because the masculine energy, when it's distorted, when it's not healed, when it's not in its divine state, masculine energy is very prone to go towards low vibrational things like vanity, like ego, like pride, like I am the big man here, I am the creator, I am the ruler, I control things, right? So the fact that he often loses everything and sees you thrive and struggles with money, with it has to happen. He has to learn that all the things in the physical world should only be the byproduct of our life of alignment, not a goal in itself. So fame, money, wealth, physical things like houses, cars, success at your career, it should be a byproduct of you living a life of alignment. He has to learn that because he's more prone to go towards that low vibration, right? So this is another reason why he has to go through that. And it's so important to remember that difference of what we're going through, because they hold that space, they facilitate healing for us without them knowing, but we have to hold space for them as well, right? So it's important in this stage for the feminine to really truly find compassion, because this is this moment when you're completely not seeing the truth. He longs for you. He feels magnetized. He wants to run to you. He wants to be in your arms, but he runs. He avoids. He's in denial. But it's an illusion of the physical world. But if you reverse that, that's why I always talk about that. The runner chasing is an illusion as well. The fact that he's behind is an illusion as well. Because so you're seeing that he doesn't love me, he doesn't want me, he's running away, he's with another woman. You're not seeing the actual truth that I'm revealing to you right now, what he has to go through. But if you reverse that, what you often not see is that he's not seeing the truth either, because he sees you, okay, she doesn't care about me. She goes through glow up. She cares about her appearance. She cares about travel, friends, looking good. And here I am at my downfall, at my lowest. She doesn't care about me, right? He also doesn't see your suffering inside, right? So it has to happen. Everything has a reason. And now, as we progress on this journey, we reach a moment. Let's go back for a moment to the feminine. We reach a moment that I often like to call crossing the bridge, right? Again, everything that we go through as a feminine is a process, right? So it's not like awakening is going to happen in one day. Release of the ego is going to happen in one day. It happens in layers, especially for the feminine. There are things for the masculine that happen in one day. We'll talk about it in a moment. But for us, it happens in layers. So that cross the bridge moment is also going to be a process. So how I like to describe this and talk about this is that in separation, and I spoke about this in my video about stages of the journey, right? That separation, I like to divide separation in two stages. The stage you're on this side of the bridge and cross the bridge, which actually means that in the first part of separation. Like I mentioned, it's going to be pain, it's going to be suffering, it's going to be crying yourself to sleep, going for emotions that you don't understand, having visions, activations, hearing things, seeing things, being completely scared, terrified, multiple dark nights of the soul, right? So it's pain. It's really rooted in pain and in fear, this journey, and it's very difficult. And as you cross the bridge and as you move to that second part of healing that happens in separation as well, you continue with certain things, and we'll touch on that in a moment, but you release this pain. You release the frequency of pain. You start to learn to transmute the frequency of pain and fear into love, right? So you stop being a longing. You still think about your masculine, but instead of crying and denying, you're like, yes, my love, you're the other half of my soul. Let's move on with this journey, right? So you basically stop crying yourself to sleep. You stop feeling pain. You start to thrive. This is where you start to understand that this was all along a journey of self-discovery. It's about you. It's about your mission. It's about allowing your soul to come through and take the reign and release the ego, right? So what's happening to us in this level is that we cross the bridge, right? And this is where we start to detach from our masculine, from the physical, our masculine and the physical. We never detach from their, detach, yes, we're always connected to their soul, but we start to understand the true difference, embody the true difference between detachment and connection, right? Connecting and attaching. So we start to detach from the when and the how, from the physical aspect of our connection and what's going on in the physical. We start to understand that this is the dominion of the masculine, that we do not manage, we don't have any influence on what's happening with our connection in the physical, because we lead in the 5D. We start to rise into our power. This is when we focus on our activations, our path. We start to get excited. Most feminines, I feel most, and I think that for most it starts before. That's why I always recommend this to you guys. But this is where you start to connect to other feminines. Find yourself a mentor, learn your craft, focus on that, right? I think that that's something that should be done earlier on a journey, and it's a huge facilitator of the journey to work with the right divine feminine who has been through that journey and you resonate with. And that stage, it's something specifically and especially powerful, because you start to learn, you start to understand, why did I come here? What is my path? What is my purpose, right? So you walk the path of your alignment, you detach from your masculine, you rise into your power, and the healing continues. And this is the trick. Here's the trick, and what oftentimes feminines fail, unfortunately, to understand. And I talk about this all the time. Because the healing changes, right? We heal in layers, okay? So we start from the thickest, dirtiest, gunkiest layers, okay? Abandonment, rejection, betrayal, all the core wounds, right? And when we cross the bridge to an outside observer, and sometimes we become that outside observer, it seems like we're already okay, right? Because things don't trigger us that much. We're no longer that dysregulated emotionally. We feel good. We feel motivated. We thrive. Yes, we have lower points. Again, what goes up needs to go down. We have to still continue to learn. But we find our purpose. Some of us, still, again, I've talked about this when I spoke about the path. Some of us do have day jobs and will always have day jobs. Some of us resign of those day jobs and continue with your purpose. But you start to thrive, right? Again, it's no longer pain. So to you, it seems like the hardest part is over. The hardest part is done. And this is where the trickster of the thought that you are already doing amazing and you're in union and your masculine is behind, which is an illusion. And I talk about this all the time. I have so many videos about this. It's just an illusion. And this is where the feminine, if you haven't fully released the ego, starts to have thoughts like, I'm doing the work, it's been so long, and he's still stuck, he's still in the matrix, he's not doing the work. I deserve to be, aligned with someone who's like matches my frequency. I want a soulmate, da 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 da. Illusion. If your masculine is not here in the physical, it means that you haven't conquered something either, because you're always equals. You are always equals. That difference in linear time is not going to be as long as you think it's going to be, right? So it can be 6 months to like 9 months, maybe 12 months. Yes, because he does need to catch up. This journey is a little bit different, right? But there's always something that we still have to do in that period of time, and it's never going to be like years. If you feel, I always talk about this, if you feel that you are healed and in the union and in your power, and your masculine is not with you within maximum of a year, it means that you haven't conquered something. You're giving up. You're refusing to see deeper, to go deeper. So that healing continues, but it's more subtle. It's more on a level of not stripping the layers of your shadows, but balancing, really polishing, right? So I think I spoke about this in one of my videos. I'm going to touch on that briefly because I want to do like a whole separate topic about that, that how we're equals. But in that stage, it's very important to understand. I'll tell you in a moment what's happening with the masculine, but we're going to be mirroring. So in that stage, you and your masculine will be going through healing the same things in the same time, but for you it's going to be on a very subtle, gentle level, whilst for him it's going to be the first thickest layer. So oftentimes it's so subtle for us that the feminines, we don't even notice it, because it feels like, I'm going to give you a specific example, right? Because it's important. So I want to focus on that and talk about this a little bit. Let's take judgment as a shadow, right? So you have dealt with judgment on the thickest layer in your first stage. You release judgment. You understand that judgment is low vibrational, that whenever we judge someone, it comes from a place of social conditioning or fear, or truly judging ourselves. When we step into a place, when we understand that we're all one and we're all here on a journey, we release that judgment and we replace it with compassion, right? And sometimes it is our role to course correct certain people and give them feedback, but in our heart we never judge them, right? We never judge them. So you've healed that on a big level, on a thick level. But here you are in that second deeper stage. You think that you're already thriving, you're not judging everyone, right? But sometimes, even if it is, let's say in a specific month, right? You went on TikTok and you were watching other feminines, video creators, right? And you saw someone, you were like, oh my God, she speaks nonsense. How can you not understand things like this, right? Or you thought just to yourself. And then, maybe you understood, maybe you didn't react to this, maybe you thought to yourself, oh, okay, it's fine, maybe she's just in a different place of a journey, right? But your immediate reaction was going into judgment. Yes, you course corrected. Yes, you fixed that. Yes, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's not like you're judging her for something very right, but it existed. And in the same time, your masculine is going through his thickest layer of judgment. And how you react to these subtle things is going to feed that energy to him through red threads. Because when you were healing, he was in denial to facilitate your healing. Because remember, we're one soul. It's too powerful for us to heal in that deep level in the same time. Now you're switching to the level of thrive, and it is your job to hold the space for him. And here you are, many feminines complaining that it's too long, that he's lazy, he's behind. No, this is your moment to return the favor, to course correct him energetically. And sometimes if he comes back and comes in, this is that moment that I'm sorry. No, go heal. Just like he was in knowingly doing this to you in the beginning, right? So this is in that stage. It's so important to understand that you're going to be holding space for your masculine, right? So let's talk about what's happening with him during that time. So again, as you cross the bridge and start the journey of detachment, deeper healing, balancing, finding your purpose, walking path of alignment, rising into your power, and achieving that inner union within. In the same time, as you cross that bridge, the ball of the deep healing is thrown to his side, to his court, right? And what happens is he doesn't just yet goes through awakening, because awakening for the masculine is different, and I'll talk about it in a moment. But he has to remain in the matrix, right? Again, he operates in the physical world. This is his dominion. He has to learn this dominion. So he remains there. And awakening almost immediately takes you out of there, so he cannot awaken just yet, right? But what's happening is that he has that aha moment. As you cross the bridge, you start to thrive, you stop feeling pain, you start to release. You're giving him energetical space to have that aha moment. And this is that moment in his life that he's going to have realizations, right? Realizations. It's not going to be on a level of awakening again, but on a level of building awareness. He's going to start healing, but on a level of physical healing, on a level of matrix healing, right? He will have that moment that he will realize, I wanted more from life. It's not just because in the first stage, it's a blame game. He blames you. He blames his karmics. He blames his parents. He blames the world. He blames other people. And this is that moment when he turns this finger. Maybe it's me. Maybe I also cause pain to some people, as I only been focusing on how people hurt me. Maybe I choose to connect with certain frequencies, certain patterns, certain people. Maybe it's me. Maybe I do deserve a good life, right? So in this period of time, most masculines are still in very struggling still really with worthiness issue, still low self-esteem. So he's not even going to be thinking about you in the context of, oh, this is my, forever person, we're going to come back to each other. But he starts to understand that you are the other half of his soul. You will be his biggest inspiration in that moment, energetically, through red threads, and also for many of them, they will watch us. They will watch us, they will hear our messages, that we will start to be vocal about our path. And remember, our path always links to their path because we're one, right? So our messages, what we specifically feel like talking about and delivering to this world, will be very relevant to them. So we will be their teacher. We will be their inspiration, just like they were our teacher unknowingly through their actions. Now we, through us being vocal and authentic, because this is the stage we step into authentic self, we become their teacher. They no longer look at us with, ugh, she's going through this glow up and this is my downfall. But they start to feel different type of magnetism towards us. Our truth, our authenticity, the vibration of our soul that has been exposed within us, it's calling them in, it's calling them home. So their shadows will still prevent them from reaching out, from wanting to start over, from feeling like they're worthy, from feeling, we will be more like the one that got away, right? How could this be that this is my woman, but this is my woman? Maybe it's never going to happen, right? But they're going to start to heal consciously. So they're not going to be like us, right? Because they were our motivation, because we wanted them to return, right? So we're like, I'm going to heal. For them, it's going to be more like, you know what? I want more from life. I want to heal. I want to understand my shadows. I want to understand my blockages. And for them, this stage is where the dark night of the soul comes in, is when the ego release comes in, right? So we heal more again on the level of a soul. So for feminines, many times, again, it's going to depend on your journey, but it's going to be meditation, connecting to spirit, journey of shamanism, oftentimes, right? Shamanic journey, past life regression. Again, very individual, but more on a level of a soul, more of a level of connection to the divine. Whereas for them, it's going to be more of a therapy kind of healing, right? So if you would really want to surface level compare the two, it's like we go on a shamanic healing, they go to therapy, right? Because again, matrix, spiritual realm, right? So what's going to be happening is that they might actually go to therapy. They might start to educate themselves about shadows, triggers, inner child healing. They might start to journal. They might start to contemplate. They might start to make healthier choices for themselves when it comes to lifestyle. So release all the gunk of the matrix, right? So if they had issues with addictions, this is going to be where they're going to go to actually heal that. If they had issues with shallowness, this is where they're going to embark on a journey of celibacy. To us, that journey of celibacy, it's a whole journey of the feminine for most part. Maybe some in the very beginning can have some experiences, but usually spirit protects you. So usually from the moment you meet your twin, you embark on a journey of celibacy, right? We don't engage with other men anymore. To them, that celibacy starts now, from that moment of us crossing the bridge, right? So they start to understand, they start to work on a relationship with their body, right? Cherish more their body through changing. Maybe they go to the gym, maybe they start exercising, maybe they start resting and sleeping more, maybe they start eating a little bit healthier, right? Maybe they release the deceptions and the shallowness. They start to understand. A lot of them start to have interest in certain aspects of the matrix, whatever they purpose is, whatever their path is, right? This is where they can get more ambitious when it comes to the real ambition. So in previously they think that ambition is making money, hustling, working a lot. Now they understand that ambition is about the growth of the soul. So maybe they want to learn something new, maybe they want to go back to school, learn a new skill, right? They start to work on their relationship with abundance and with money. They understand that money it was never meant to be a power tool, a tool to execute power, but it's a tool to help. It's a tool to facilitate, right? They start to understand that the more aligned you are, the things spirit also shows them that the more you understand these things, your life is going to get better. You're going to feel healthier. You're going to look better, right? That glow up that we went through. So they will start to slowly, sometimes with a lot of stubbornness, because that's also one of the big shadows of the masculine, they will start to explore. They will start to come into awareness, go through realizations. And now we get to the point of their awakening. Their awakening, our awakening, Kundalini awakening, is first on my list. We have activation, recognition of the soul, which we go through together. And then I have Kundalini awakening for you, for the feminine. It's his last point, right? We operate like this. We're always balancing. We're always switching. You have to remember that. So remember, what you see is an illusion of that journey of the matrix, right? So now I want to explain to you a little bit about the awakening of the masculine that we call Satori. Satori awakening, because it's an immediate awakening, whilst ours was a process. The Kundalini awakening is a process, right? So let's go back and explain again so you can actually know the difference. So the awakening of the feminine, the Kundalini awakening, is a process. This is an awakening on the level of a soul, right? The serpent is awakened. The serpent is awakened. It's oftentimes it's our masculine who actually awakens that serpent within, and it opens its eyes and it starts to rise through our energetical points, connecting us to the divine, right? And in that process, you're going to be going through your activations and you're going to be receiving downloads from divine that are relevant to you, to your journey, to your mission, to your separate mission, to your joint missions, right? That inner knowing downloads. And the thing is that we as feminines, we connect to the void, right? Void is the quantum field, is where everything that ever has been, is, will be, and can be resides. Okay? Can you imagine the magnitude of that? In this human experience, in this human body, our mind is incapable of holding such amount of knowledge and comprehending. If everything in the void would be downloaded into your brain, it would explode. You would end your physical existence. At minimum, you would end up in a mental institution. You would not be able to handle this. And some of us really receive very powerful downloads. We receive downloads about our past lifetimes, so on and so forth, right? So it has to happen gradually. You cannot literally have that happen to you. I know one divine feminine that had a very strong download and activation in the beginning of her journey, and she almost ended up in mental institution. She had to lock herself up for weeks on end in a dark room to process. And if you've been a while on this journey, you know that sometimes we have those very powerful ascensions when we receive downloads, and we really do shut the curtains and lock ourselves in the bedroom for a couple of days to process, to really understand, spirit, what are you saying? What does it mean? And the monkey mind wants to understand, and you have to understand with the soul and the level of the energy. It's difficult, right? So it has to happen gradually. So as you heal, as you expand, as you release and that ego, right? And the soul takes the reign, as you learn to trust, your inner knowing, trust these downloads, trust your mission, we grow that awakening, right? Until the end of our days, we're always going to be receiving downloads and upgrades. But the thing is that when that awakening, when the serpent is fully awakened, we get into inner union, it stops shake us, right? Throughout this journey, sometimes we receive downloads that we really don't know what to do with ourselves. We start to doubt, we start to question the monkey mind, right? But when we're truly in inner union, no one and nothing shakes our truth. We receive these downloads and we're just able to, yes, sometimes we need to, go into solitude and some contemplation, organize everything and absorb it and allow it to settle, but it's not going to shake our world, right? So you receive and you progress. This is your awakening, right? Every box that you unravel, you go upwards on this journey, right? We always go upwards. The masculine goes forward. Remember, 3D, 5D, we only go upwards. Now, Satori awakening for the masculine is different, because those boxes that we lift and use to go up, right? He only lifts them. All this journey, from the moment of activation, he lifts them, right? The seed is being planted in every one of these boxes. So it's a similar experience. Maybe it happened to you, to give you in comparison, right? An analogy. Sometimes we hear an information and we don't attach to it. We let it go because it's not relevant to us, right? And then it happens that in months or sometimes in years, we hear it again and we're like, oh my God, yeah, I understand that. I need this information. But wait, I knew this. I've heard this before. Why I didn't react to this before? I knew this. I knew this, but I didn't think much of it because maybe at that point of my journey, my life, it was not relevant, right? So what happens to the masculine? He lifts, but he cannot awaken. He has to stay in the matrix. He has to stay under the veil. Otherwise, he wouldn't go through all the gunk of the matrix. You know this. The moment we awaken, we're like, bye, I unsubscribe from the matrix. Because we suddenly know that it's all lies, manipulations, deceptions, right? So he has to stay on the level of that matrix. But it doesn't mean he's not doing the work. He's just doing the work differently, right? So he lifts. And what happens in a Satori awakening that is an immediate awakening, that all those boxes that he has been lifting, right, suddenly go like boom, up when he's ready. So it can be literally overnight. One day he just wakes up and he's like, shit, what have I done? This is my woman. This is my path. It's all true. He connects the dots. He understands it, that immediate download. Yes, source have been laying the ground for that download not to overwhelm him. But now he knows. And from that Satori, it's literally days, weeks, maybe sometimes a little bit longer if he has still some karma still to like close up or clear out. But now he's going to have clarity. Now, for the first time, he's going to see you as equals. And I always say this, he will never see you as equals if you don't see him as equal. And if you think he's behind, you're not seeing him as equal, right? So this will be the first time that he will feel worthy. He will understand it was just an illusion. It was just low vibrational energy keeping me in the matrix. This is my path. This is my queen, right? And he will come ahead and break the no contact. And from there, again, it's gonna go and watch that video that I've done about the stages, because we're still gonna go into the in and out final dance of the flame stage. But basically, you have to understand that it's teamwork, right? So if you compare these two journeys, it's not like that he's behind and we are here, right? It's like we're lifting upwards and he's lifting forward. We're lifting upwards, he's lifting forward. We're lifting upwards, forward. And when we reach here, right, it's like this, boom! We will meet here at the same time. It's not like we're going to be waiting here for God knows how. It's what I told you. 3, 6, the maximum of 12 months. Because he goes through a crash course, because his journey is different, because we are teamwork, different tasks, task division. Otherwise, it will be impossible. We focus in 5D, they focus in 3D, right? It's like, I like to compare it as well to this, situations where you imagine that teams sometimes in movies when they have to do different things, but they're equally important. So we have that spy that's going to embark on a mission, and they're going to have like this computer geek that's going to see every camera and know where every person is when someone returned home. They wouldn't be able to do it without them. But maybe the job of the spy, it looks like it's like more appealing or more like interesting, but one does not exist without the other. It's teamwork. It's teamwork, right? He's not behind. So I hope this was enough of an explanation for you to understand these journeys. What I want to mention, that final thing that I want to mention to you, is that I've written down 3 things, because I always say this, there are things that are given to this journey. They always happen similar to all of us, like stages of the journey. But then, what's happening exactly in every stage, of duration of every stage, can be a little bit different. So all of the things that I've mentioned, I've listed out 3 that I want you to remember, that they can be very different for every divine feminine, depending on your own individual journey. So let's shortly touch on these, okay? So the first thing is gift activations. Please remember and don't get disencouraged, right? If you feel like, that's why I always say never compare. Do not ever look at other divine feminines and think, oh my God, she's been on this journey for this amount of time and she's in a completely different place, or she's been activated to this gift and I haven't. It's very different. The gifts are very different. Not all of us have psychic abilities. Not all of us, to all of us, like, dreams are important, but not all of us see future timelines and dreams, right? Not all of us, it's different, right? And those gifts get activated on a different levels. So to some of us, I've mentioned this example to you, to some of us it's going to be very rare because it's very difficult and overwhelming, but those gifts, most of these gifts will be like boom, activated right in the beginning. For most of us, gradually, as you progress on your journey, you're going to unlock, right, next levels, and you're going to get activated to these gifts. To all of us, it's a given to twin flame that as you meet your twin and you get activated, this is how you know that this is your twin flame. You start to see, hear, and perceive and feel things from outside of physical realms, right? But then some of us will get more and more and more activated. If part of your journey is being a medium, being a healer, right? We're all healers, but being a medium, being a shaman, being a reader, being a psychic. But to some of us, if your path is more, like I've mentioned, you can be, a doctor, a nurse, an activist, and artist, different gifts will be activated within you, not related to your path, not necessarily psychic gifts, right? So it's going to be different. And again, usually it happens gradually, but to some it happens in the beginning, and to some it happens more towards the end. So don't judge yourself. Don't compare yourself to other. We work together. Again, together, all feminists, we're also teamwork. Our journeys are very different, very different. We are very different because part of this journey is discovering your authentic self, right? And that cannot happen when you want to be like someone else. You can be inspired by someone and feel like they can help you to get where you want to go, but you cannot. It's like the difference between inspiration and copycat, right? I'm inspired by you, so you can go ahead to my channel and see how I read as a reader, and you are a new reader, for example, so you can get inspired, have the same, but you cannot attach to these things, right? You have to use inspiration and develop your own way. So it's similar to gift activation. Next thing that's going to be very different, and I want you to remember, is that path, right? So I've done a whole separate episode about the path of the feminine, so I invite you to go ahead and watch that. But it talks about how different our paths can be, right? That not all of us will release, that it's a common misconception that I've heard online, right, as well, that not all of us will release the day job. Some of us will have our mission. The mission is about who you are and how you do things, not what you do. Some of us will have day jobs, right? And some of us will get activated immediately and immediately quit that day job, and some of us at the end of the journey, right? It's very different. So your path is going to be different. How you progress, how it's like this, right? But for some it's going to be like this, for some it's going to be like this. So it's very different. Your path is very individual, and certain things can happen on different levels of the journey. And the last thing is the ego release, right? So remember, I've mentioned that first stage, you go through that ego release, right? And then you cross the bridge and you go through detachment, raising to power, balancing, path alignment, right? So some of the feminines will have released mostly like 90% of the ego at this point, but some you will still have parts of your ego. And those are those cases where you are across the bridge, you are happy, you are thriving, you are living your life, you are following your path, and suddenly you have that moment when you think that your masculine is behind. It's the ego. It's the ego you haven't released, because it's your ego telling you still that you have expectation from him. Why is he not healing? Where is he? Well, if he's not here, I want to be aligned with a soulmate of the same frequency because I deserve it. What says that? Ego. Soul would never say that. Soul understands that we're not here to solely be aligned with someone and have a partner. We have a mission. We have a mission. Soul understands that your masculine is on a very different journey that I've described in this whole episode. Why is it so different? And soul never judges your masculine. The feminine soul would never judge her king, where he's at on his journey, what he's doing, what's causing the delay. The soul understands. So if you start having these thoughts, that can happen far along the way, the journey. Years, some feminines years on a journey, already following their path, being coaches, being, tapped into whatever is it that they're going to be doing. And suddenly they come on and say that, whoa, I've been working on this for so long and he's not here. So, and it appears like they say it from a place of love and light and acceptance. Like, it's like, no, it's like love and light, but it's okay. He stays with the ego. He chooses, the matrix. And I just want to be aligned with someone. Who says that? It ain't the soul, girl. It's the ego. So it means you still haven't released the ego, because remember, we're equals. What did I say? You're not here for years waiting for him. You're equals. It's just you choose different paths. But you're always equal. So if you're thinking that, it's because you haven't released a part of the ego. So if you haven't done, then how are you expecting him to come in? Right? So remember that ego release is also something that happens differently, right? To some of us, it's going to be a boom. To some of us, it's going to happen gradually. To some of us, there's going to be layers of ego. They're going to be left within us at those final stages. And it's also going to be different what type of that release it's going to happen, right? To some of us, it's going to be about expectations. To some of us, it's going to be about different shadows, right? That link us to that physical existence, to that ego. All right, I hope this was helpful. I can show you my little chart, if that's going to be helpful for you, if you're going to be able to see this, or take a screen and then give it a flip, because this was a direct channel from spirit as I started to painting this. I hope it's going to explain to you. And the key thing that I want you to remember, no one is behind. We are equals. We're in this together from day one. We are teamwork. It's just that we do things differently because we work on the level of a soul, on the level of ascension. We ascend upwards. We connect to the divine. Our Kundalini awakening is a long process because it connects us to the void. This is the feminine energy, the stillness, the connection to God. Whereas the masculine needs to remain dormant because he goes through the matrix. He creates forward movement. He operates on a level of a physical world. He needs to understand this physical world. He needs to go through that downfall. He needs to remain in the matrix, because if he was to awaken in the beginning of this journey, again, he would immediately unsubscribe from the matrix, just like us. And he needs to stay there. So he's not behind. He's just doing things differently because this is what we agreed on, right? And that awakening for him, Satori, happens literally weeks before he breaks no contact. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them in the comments or connect to me via Instagram. If you want to send me direct message, link is in the description box. You can send me direct message. You can sign up for a session if you feel guided to. And you can connect to me. I invite you as well to connect to me via TikTok, because this is where I post daily stories, videos, collective readings, content. So I'm there a lot. I love you so incredibly much. I really hope this was helpful. And keep pushing.